Hi, this is Andy Hoffman of CryptoGoldCentral.com, which publishes a daily cryptocurrency blog and provides professional crypto consulting to individuals and altcoin developers alike. This week's guest is doing the first ever one-on-one back-to-back, following last week's appearance between last Tuesday's Bitcoin explosion from 6,700 to 7,400 and this Monday's rocket ship ride from 7,700 to 8,500, in which we discussed yet again why hodling Bitcoin has been the best investment strategy in the history of financial markets, and why, despite the past 2 years' price gains, it still does, or is, not just due to the price appreciation Bitcoin has and will continue to have, but the crypto dividends one has and will continue to receive in perpetuity. That man, of course, is fellow World Crypto Network colleague Adam Meister, one of the global crypto community's most valuable assets and the subject of my must-read article yesterday, The Meister Crypto Dividend and the Hoffman $100 billion line. On that note, Adam, welcome to the first full steam ahead bull market episode of One-on-One.
It's great to be here. It is great to be here.
Yeah, I should say in some time. There certainly were plenty of them in the fall, but we're going to get ready to have a lot more fun in the second half of this year. And before I get to the article, which was inspired by Adam's comments Wednesday night, let's talk about the massively bullish goings-on in the Bitcoin market that, in my view, portend the start of what may well be the biggest rally in percentage terms in Bitcoin's history. The reason being that now that institutions realize the bear market caused nearly exclusively by non-fundamental selling by the Mt. Gox trustee, let alone as precious metals have all but disappeared from investors' radar screens, it's increasingly likely the global adoption stage is imminent. To that end, Adam, what do you make of the recent price explosion? Do you believe we're on the cusp of viral investment adoption? And if not, what's left to derail this 100% certain inevitability?
Well, I like to take it slow, as everyone knows, and I value my Bitcoin in Bitcoin. 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. So I've noticed that people are happy that the fiat price is going up. And as I have said for a while, it's only a matter of time before all of the big players pile in. So to me, it's already cooked in there. That's why I'm a long-term holder. And I know in the future, in terms of fiat, it's going to be worth a lot more. But one thing that could derail everything right now, I think this pump in terms of fiat could be due to some speculation about the ETF approval, and that might be coming in August, on August the 10th. And the way our government works, the SEC, they take their time with things. They have all sorts of bureaucracy. They have all sorts of delays. So I've been reading that this thing could get delayed all the way until February. So if this pump is mostly being caused because of the speculation about the proposed ETFs, whichever one you want to talk about, and it doesn't happen on August the 2nd, August the 10th, sure, the price in terms of fiat could go down. So I do tell people that, don't get too excited. It could all, it could drop by. There are going to be days where it drops by $1,000. It could happen on August 10th if there's no approval, if there's a delay, or who knows. But what people have to remember is that eventually it's going to be approved. Eventually, maybe it won't even be in February, but eventually it will be. So if you know that, if you understand that, and you understand what the potential of Bitcoin is, the world-changing potential, how it's the biggest thing since the internet, then you shouldn't worry about, well, is it 7,000 or 8,000? When should I buy? You're going to look back on it one day and be like, what was the difference between 7,000 and 8,000? Really, what was the difference?
Right. Well, I agree on everything. The one thing that I don't always agree about, even though it's semantics, is the whole point of valuing wealth in Bitcoin per se. Now, when I was in the gold market for all those years, we talked and that was where all my investments were. We talked in terms of valuing your wealth in ounces of gold. And again, it sounds good on paper, and it's great if you have the staying power to wait for the ounces of gold to be able to pay off your lifestyle and fund your future. But if it doesn't go up in price, ounces of gold don't matter that much. And just like Bitcoin don't matter if the Bitcoin price isn't high enough to support your lifestyle. So, and equally important when it comes to Bitcoin in particular, it's not just an investment, it's a changing of the monetary guard. And the faster the price goes up, the quicker that monetary guard changes. And of course, the quicker that people who own it become independently wealthy and can do a lot of things with their money. So I push forward as fast as I can. But like you said, you can't make it go faster. You can just do your best, as we do, to try to spread the word.
Yeah. Now, I wanted to add just, I mean,
yeah.
The simplification of the entire thing is try to accumulate more and more Bitcoin, people. I think people who are in the Bitcoin game, some of them are trying to accumulate more fiat value. And so they're willing to sell their Bitcoin. And it's just a big mistake. Just try to get more Bitcoin. That's how in the future people are going to, value their wealth. It's that if you try to accumulate more dollars, you're not going to be able to buy as much in the future. That is being inflated away. Just people have to get into that mindset. I want to get more Bitcoin. I want to get more Bitcoin.
Absolutely. And people do look, I mean, even you, I mean, we all say, if someone says, you wouldn't answer them, of course, but in your head you would, what are you worth? You wouldn't say X Bitcoin. You would, your first thought, being that we've lived our whole lives in this fiat world, would be how many dollars or millions of dollars that would be. But in time, that's going to be the case that will switch to Bitcoin.
It's for me. It's already switched. For me,
yeah. I know exactly how many Bitcoin I have to the 10th of an ounce, and I am continuing to try to get paid as much Bitcoin as I can, because I know that one day that will be the changeover. But again, it's semantics. And the only way that your net worth is going to rise in Bitcoin and in fiat is going to be to acquire more Bitcoin. And I want to go back to your statement about the ETF again, because again, it came up again with, like, for instance, in B Rhodium, it's, launch next month, and people saying, well, what'll happen? Are people going to dump it, right? Like they did with B Gold. And the thing is, yeah, people dump things in the beginning, and then there's buyers. But the thing is, you get experience. People see how these things happen, and they're ready for it. And the same thing goes with the ETF. The whole financial market is well aware of the ETF. I don't know if you call it controversy, the process. They know that in March of 2017, the price would spike to 1,300 from 1,000 based on speculation, and then it fell back to $950 when they said no. And guess what? You remember, 2 days later it was back up at 1,300 or close to it again, because the market knows. Look, I really don't believe that the entire market believes that an ETF is coming and that they'll be shocked. I think that we've exhausted the supply. We've had 6 months of selling. A large part of it was the Mt. Gox trustee. None of it could get the price under $6,000, as we've seen, and we'll talk about later. And now we're looking at in a world where gold's crashing, fiat currencies are crashing. Everything in the Bitcoin world is getting stronger, even Bitcoin dominance, which we'll talk about in a second. So it may not have as much to do with the ETF as many people believe.
Well, I'm giving everybody just a warning, because as you said, we have been through this before, and there might not be a logical reason why it'll plummet, right, if there's an announced delay. But some people out there take advantage of that situation. They start to sell, they start to cause a panic, so other people will sell, so they get those people's Bitcoin, so they get it for cheap. So I'm just trying to strengthen people's hands for the future. Yeah. It just, I mean, there will be weak hands out there who don't understand, who haven't seen this before, who will sell and think it's the end of the world, and just people like us, the smart people, will just get cheap Bitcoin on sale and keep on accumulating that Bitcoin.
Right. Well, that's why your presence in the ecosystem is so valuable, because you're the biggest bull of all time. But at the same time, you're letting people know that you don't ever expect anything. Set low expectations for the near term, because we've been used to in the near term anything happening. And again, you talk about the thing like the ETF. This is not the old Bitcoin. This is a much stronger Bitcoin with much stronger participants, institutions, and people who have been wise to the game. We have futures now. The ETF process has been ongoing for some time. And frankly, if there is a delay, like let's say they come out in August and they say they're delaying for 45 days, I don't think that that's a negative. I think the only real negative would be if they say, we're not going to do it, and we're never going to do it because we think you're all criminals. I guess that could have a modest or slightly more than modest downturn effect. But I'm not really too worried about anything with ETF. I think it's more of an more of icing on the cake if it does happen. And if it does happen, by the way, people, you're going to see $20,000 Bitcoin this year. That's pretty much baked in the cake. Would you agree with that?
Well, again, I don't like to give numbers. I don't like to. I
know.
What I see is that there are all sorts of people out there who want to get into Bitcoin, but want nothing to do with controlling their own private key. They want nothing to do with it. They just want to do it the way that they've invested in the stock market all these years. Let a third party do it for them through an ETF, through something super official. So I do know that if a real legitimate ETF is approved and then is created, that a lot of people are going to buy into that, and it will be good for the fiat price. It really will be. Because we're living in a little bubble here where people think, oh, it's so easy to control your private key. Oh, it's so easy to buy it from Coinbase and then move it to the Trezor. It isn't. It isn't. There are very wealthy people who do not want to, and even moderately wealthy people who don't want to deal with any of it right now, because it's like the internet in 1994 to them. They'll let somebody else do it for them. So that somebody else is going to be an ETF most likely.
Right. Well, again, it comes to the concept of custodians, because now when you're talking about wealthy billionaires, individuals I'm talking about, I think you may be underestimating them, because wealthy billionaires have a large network of handlers, and they are very well aware of things like taxes and state taxes and getting their assets to appear for inheritances, that kind of stuff. So I would bet anything that if you're, a run-of-the-mill billionaire, that you made your own money, that you are very well aware through your handlers of how to hold your private keys, and many of them will be. But when you talk about it, and again, it's getting easier each day to do that. So when you say it's hard to put it on the Trezor, it's hard for someone mentally to say, I'm going to do it. But as you know, nothing's easier. But when you talk about institutions, that's the other story, because institutions not only don't want to hold their own private keys, they're not allowed to. And that's why the whole regulatory structure becomes a big deal. And when the SEC says that Ethereum and Bitcoin are not to be really regulated, then it really is up to private enterprise to create solutions. Fidelity's creating a solution. This ETF will be a solution. You know that Goldman Sachs through Poloniex will create a solution, and eventually everybody will. So you listened to Mike Novogratz the other day saying, what's going to really propel the price higher is custodial solutions. And to me, look, we've already had GBTC for some time now. I really don't think it's that complex, as long as attention is paid to details.
What you just said, that one little line, eventually everyone will have a solution. I totally agree with that. So right now, hardly anyone has a solution. So just think how early we are in all of this, people. Eventually, there are going to be all sorts of custodial solutions for all the wealthy grandmas out there who don't want to handle it themselves. We're not there yet. So we're just at the very beginning of this in terms of regular people being connected to Bitcoin, having a piece of it, or institutions having a piece of it. It just shows you the tremendous potential that is out there.
Yeah, and the funny thing, again, with the big pink elephant when it comes to ETF is, look, a Bitcoin ETF is a direct threat to the U.S. government and their money printing. I mean, look, the last thing that they want as a government is for Bitcoin to do what it did last year, let alone go beyond it. Because at this point, all the institutions, the Wall Streets of the world will be involved. The billionaires will be involved. Governments will be involved. That will threaten the dollar. And they've pretty much killed off gold. So this is their primary threat. So if they actually agree to the ETF, which they're seeing incredible amount of pressure from Wall Street and from pretty much the whole business world to get done, they're pretty much admitting that there's no way that they can stop Bitcoin. So not only is there going to be a custodial solution, there's going to be pretty much the U.S. government throwing up their hands that we can't stop it. And that's why I believe if that thing is approved this year, let alone if it's just a couple of weeks away, I don't even think last year's highs are safe, because that's the last remaining piece, is that people think that the government will have the ability to stop it, and that institutions won't have the custodial solution. So on that note, next we have the accompanying mega bullish trend of rising Bitcoin dominance, which in the past week, seemingly, for no apparent reason, has rocketed from 42 to 47%, i.e. its highest level since the surge to 65% during December's epic rally to $20,000, during which, for those who don't remember, most altcoin prices were hit hard. The dominant surge has not been entirely across the board, but the vast majority of altcoins have declined materially versus King Bitcoin. Adam, first I'd like to ask your views of the coincidence of Bitcoin dominance surging just as the absolute price breaks out, which, if it holds, is as bullish of a signal as one could imagine. And secondly, the specific outlooks for the top tier altcoins responsible for the vast majority of Bitcoin dominance changes: Ethereum, Ripple, Bcash, and Litecoin. After your general dominance comments, we'll go over each of these coins one at a time. Adam.
Well, yeah, clearly the fiat price momentum of Bitcoin has piqued some interest by people who were holding in the altcoins, and maybe made them throw up their hands in the air and say, enough of this altcoin thing, I'm going back into the rock right now. I think the talk of the ETF probably has also made a few people say, I'm not going to hang around in alts for now. I'm going to go back to Bitcoin. And I'm sure they're just some people that are like, yeah, the trend right now is not altcoins. Let's go back to Bitcoin. I mean, there's a lot of herd mentality people out there that jump between the two, between the rock and between the others. So I could see it, even the dominance going up some more, but it's all cyclical. I think what I foresee is that if the ETF does get approved, and if the price of Bitcoin goes through the roof, there'll be a lot of outsiders who've just been sitting out of crypto will jump into crypto, and some of them will look for the next Bitcoin, even though Bitcoin's the next Bitcoin, and we'll see the alts catch up again. I think we'll see that. I think there'll be a big Bitcoin price surge eventually, and the alts will then follow and catch up, and we'll have and 5 months later we'll have this discussion about how Bitcoin's lost its dominance a little bit temporarily. But again, over the long run, as everyone knows, Bitcoin does win. You don't know which alt is going to pump. I say they're all cyclical, and they are. Most of the legitimate ones are cyclical. They sometimes go up in terms of Bitcoin more so than they sometimes perform better than Bitcoin. But over the long run, Bitcoin performs better. But you don't know when each one is going to perform better. So you don't know when to get into so it's just a guess. It's just a guess. Like, oh, it's time to buy Zcash now. You're probably going to get that wrong. You'd probably be better just holding on the Bitcoin. So my advice to everyone is just hold on the Bitcoin. Keep it simple. You don't know when Litecoin's going to pump. You don't know when Zcash is going to pump. Are they going to pump? Yeah, sure. There'll be some Coinbase rumor. Again, the latest thing is someone's telling me, well, Ethereum, should I buy some Ethereum Classic now? Because tomorrow it could appear on Coinbase. I mean, yeah, it's going to appear on Coinbase eventually. We don't know if it's going to be tomorrow, though. Why even care? Just hang on the Bitcoin. Yeah, Ethereum Classic will pump, but whatever. It'll be temporary. Then it'll go back down again.
Yeah, and by the way, people, you can substitute many others for Coinbase. That Coinbase effect is dying. I mean, Coinbase pretty much shot itself in the head with its actions during the last bull market. And I think it's going to be, if it hasn't already, be very marginalized compared to all the other exchanges in the world. But yes, of course, if you add any major exchange adds a coin, I guess it matters, but less so than it did last year. And from the things you're saying there, I agree pretty much with everything. I think that the Bitcoin dominance surge now, I mean, look at, I'm guessing. One is because I think the Bitcoin ETF is part of why there's a focus on Bitcoin. And also, more importantly, I think that the institutions are starting to get back in. They're starting to sense that, yes, the bottom was put in at 100 billion market cap. And yes, we can start moving into this. We see the volume going in. But in the initial stages, we are going to be very careful, and we're going to buy the one with the best risk-reward profile. We're not going to just jump in betting that there's a bottom with all the risky altcoins. And that's why Bitcoin, and again, the Bitcoin dominance, it hasn't gone from 42 to 80. It's gone from 42 to 47. So it's not like it's exploded. It's certainly been notable, but I agree completely. And once the institutions start to realize not just institutions, everybody, that the bull market has returned. They will race back into altcoins in the blink of an eye. And it's I won't do it. I just hold my Bitcoin, but I know very well that that's what the market's going to do. Again, when crypto hedge funds start launching again, they diversify. They buy all the altcoins. They're going to do it. So I don't really put that much stake into this as it like right now. Oh, everyone thinks altcoins in general are dying. I think it's just safety in the beginning of a bull market, and also the ETF. Then to that end, though, let's face it, when we talk about Bitcoin dominance, we're really just talking about 3 or 4 altcoins, because the vast majority of the market cap outside of Bitcoin is in Ethereum, Ripple, which is barely a crypto, and Bcash. And then, okay, we'll talk about Litecoin, even though it's really a lot smaller than, I mean, Litecoin's a lot closer to the Cardanos and EOS's. But let's talk about these 4 in particular, because if any one of them had a major problem or a major something good, it will dramatically affect Bitcoin dominance. Now, Ethereum, there's been a lot out there recently. What's your thought about Ethereum? Do you believe that it's on the upswing as a altcoin relative to Bitcoin and other competitors, or that it has stiff headwinds to match what it did in the past?
Right now, there's some negative headwinds because everyone's yelling about their scaling issues. And so that, I mean, a lot of people are piling on Ethereum right now. So for the near term, it's going to lose value in terms of Bitcoin in the near term. But again, they'll pull something, they'll fix their scaling, they'll come up with, they'll get rid of that uncertainty eventually. I mean, the whole proof of work, proof of stake thing that's kind of haunting also. But once that gets cleared up, again, some of the institutions, some of the corporate people out there, they love this, that it's the supercomputer of crypto or whatever they try to describe it as, and that you're able to build, and you are able to build things on it. And again, the ICOs could become trendy again too. I don't know why, but people like to gamble. No, I do know why. So I think Ethereum will, for the rest of this decade at least, remain the solid number 2 crypto out there, okay, in terms of market cap. And eventually it will recover. But now it is people are piling on it right now. So if you are some kind of speculator out there, and again, I only define people who should speculate, who have no debt, who are willing to lose everything, and that's hardly anyone out there in this land right now. But I mean, yeah, it's probably a cheap price for Ethereum right now. What is it right now? I don't even know.
470 or something like that. In
terms of Bitcoin, what percent?
6%.
6%. So yeah, that's low. I mean, it'll get back to eventually 8, 9, 10. It'll probably get back to 10 one day.
Yeah, I mean, it's traded between, I think, 4% and 10% since it broke out a little over a year ago.
I mean, it had those insane 12% too. So I mean, so it's on sale right now in terms of Bitcoin. But again, I don't advise doing anything like that. So people are definitely piling. I don't think it's going to die or anything like that. I'm not a hater, because I realize it does something totally different than Bitcoin does. It's just a total different animal. And yeah, you'll be able to do smart contracts with RSK and all this stuff on Bitcoin also. But again, Ethereum does have an ecosystem of its own. There are even coins that try to be the next Ethereum. Okay, what other coins can say that besides Bitcoin? Everyone tries to be the next Bitcoin, but then there's some that try to be the next Ethereum, and they're all centralized and ridiculous. EOS or whatever. I wouldn't dare say give EOS the same type of respect that Litecoin has. I mean, Litecoin at least is an original. Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not pre-mined. It's not all these ridiculous things that EOS is and centralized and. Yeah,
well, look, in Ethereum. I mean, look, the SEC, or was it the CFTC, just said that they are not going to be regulated, that they're not they're not a security.
Yeah.
And then people argue, oh, well, they're really a security because they were sold. No, the fact is, let's face it, people, they are decentralized now. I mean, yes, they have a guy who can make changes to the protocol, but if Vitalik wasn't there, it would go on just fine. They can't stop it from trading. It trades everywhere right now. It's got dozens and dozens of developers around the world, and yeah, it's got competition But I mean, how much is that competition? There's some new upstarts. I don't know. I think Ethereum has got a huge lead over those guys. And while they do have lots of headwinds, the proof of stake thing, they had the altcoin bear market, which has not helped anybody. It's just hard for me to see why everyone thinks that they're going to be displaced or collapse anytime soon.
I think it just, they have a lot of haters like Bitcoin, that people want to be the next, coins want to be the next Ethereum. Okay, good for them. Let them try. Again, you go back to the SEC approval. That was a big thing. I remember Thomas was on my show even, and he was kind of down about it. He's like, well, the government is saying if they approve that this is he kind of put it in a sense that this is the one that the government supports against Bitcoin, because it's clear that it's centralized and it's clear that it's a security. I'm not going to argue with that.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
But I think it's bullish. You can't. The SEC giving its blessing to Ethereum is bigger than the SEC giving its blessing to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin doesn't care. Ethereum can, in a sense, be stopped because of Vitalik can be arrested or whatever, and they've said it's fine. The government has said it's fine. So that was huge for Ethereum, bigger than it was for Bitcoin. But let's talk about the other ones. At least.
And by the way, they're not blessing Ethereum. I think people want to think the government's blessing them. They don't realize though that Ethereum is essentially become decentralized, and like Bitcoin, the government doesn't know what the hell to do with it, even if they did think it was a security. So they're basically saying, we're going to punt, because what the heck are we going to do? Just look stupid trying to, quote, regulate Ethereum? They can't.
They could bother Vitalik. They
could bother him, but they can't
we're going to leave Vitalik alone.
They can't stop Ethereum from operating, even if they did bother Vitalik.
Yeah, but if they bother Vitalik, it would hurt the price. I mean,
yes, it would hurt the price, but it wouldn't stop Ethereum. That's the whole point. I mean, look, they could bother everyone in the Bitcoin. I mean, it would hurt the Bitcoin price.
No,
the government went out and arrested Andreas and the World Crypto Network, and they found out who all the developers were and arrested them and harassed them. I mean, they could do that if they wanted to. It would certainly hurt the price knowing that the government was after them, but they can't stop Bitcoin by doing that.
No, but the government could stop Ethereum in the sense saying, hey, Vitalik, you are not, you'll be kosher with us if you keep it proof of work. Do not change it.
You think they know what proof of work is? I don't even know.
But they could manipulate it that way. Yeah. They're saying that they're not going to try to do that. All I'm trying to say is that Ethereum is definitely more centralized than Bitcoin. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
I just don't think that. I think it's also past the point of no return where it really could be stopped.
You've got a point. I mean, where it could totally be stopped. Yeah, you're right. But where it could be, the government could alter the path. I think they still could.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I think almost all cryptos, as much as people use the terms, look, yes, if you start a crypto as a person, I guess that makes it, quote, centralized. But the point is, you're creating a decentralized protocol. Once it's trading, in most cases, it doesn't require like a certain person to do anything. Now, Ripple's another story, because Ripple's a company. They could make Ripple's price go to zero today, but they could not, even many of these tiny little altcoins, everyone makes fun of and called centralized. There's not a heck of a lot they could, I mean, first of all, they wouldn't want to stop tiny little altcoins, but because it wouldn't be worth their time. But I don't think that people realize the government, there's not that much they can do to many cryptocurrencies. The next one, which we'll talk about now, though, is Ripple. Does Ripple have any chance of going up against, forget Bitcoin, which is never going to go up against, but even the other altcoins? Was Ripple's days done?
I don't know how anyone can bet on Ripple at all. I mean, it is a total gamble. I mean, they have like quarterly reports, like it's a company. It's totally the opposite of what cryptocurrency is supposed to be. And again, they're just people who get excited. Well, it's going to be the bank's cryptocurrency. I mean, weren't we supposed to like be getting away from the centralized bank thing with cryptocurrency? I don't know. I think there's still a lot of unit bias out there. I think there's still a lot of people who are like, well, it's only a few cents, so it could be the next Bitcoin. So they get so excited about it. They see it's the number 3 one listed on CoinMarketCap. And they're like, this is my chance to become a multimillionaire. If this thing goes from 50 cents to $10, I'm made. And I think that's part of the thing that fuels this entire thing, that they don't care about the fundamentals, if it's a company, if it's centralized, if it's XRP or Ripple or whatever. The thing, but because of what it really is, that it really is a company, it's a company-based thing, it could totally go poof. And that market cap, what's it, like 6% of the total coin market cap, it would all flow into Bitcoin. It would be such a positive thing for Bitcoin. So I do one day foresee, I mean, it might be a gradual deflation of its total market cap that'll go into Bitcoin, but it'll help Bitcoin as it goes down. I don't see how this thing is going to survive as a major top tier altcoin into the next decade. I mean, I just said Ethereum is going to be number 2 in the year 2020. Ethereum will Ripple be number 3 still? I don't see how the heck it can be. I really do not. And I want to read something. You know, I want to read something about this. What did this guy say about Ethereum right here? Oh my God, there was a guy with a really good line. Are we still on the Ethereum is never going to work yet? Millions of ICO and ID. So yeah, there's still people saying Ethereum's not going to work. Ethereum's not going to work. Yet there are millions of ICOs on it. Again, you can hate ICOs and you can hate Ethereum, but you can't. It works. It does work. They built all these. If it's only going to ever be a platform for ICOs, that's a pretty darn huge thing. So I wanted to return to that Ethereum thing for one moment, because it is an old line now for the people that are saying Ethereum's never going to work. It does. It works. Okay. What do all the other cryptocurrencies do? You can't name another cryptocurrency that does anything but Bitcoin and Ethereum, really. And maybe Monero you can buy.
Steam.
Yeah. Or so, I mean, that's a very specific thing. So we discussed Ripple. Obviously, I am not a big fan of it. I don't see how it can remain there. Then there's BK.
Oh, yeah, let me just add my part of Ripple is, I think a big part of that was the CNBC. They loved it because it is a company that they could pump as a company and get, you know, kind of the okay from their masters on whoever owns CNBC. But it is a colossal disaster in every aspect, the way I see it. And I'm not a tech guy. It just doesn't seem that Ripple does anything that anyone wants. And it's not even, according to most of the crypto people, an actual cryptocurrency. It's more like just some kind of hybrid that supposedly caters to, you know, to the mainstream. But I just don't understand why it's got one guy who owns like billions and billions of it, can make as many as they want. I just don't see how this thing's going anywhere. So let's just move on.
I do want to say one last thing about Ripple, though. I want to say one last thing about Ripple. If you want to understand what the base of Ripple and what it really is, people should look up the Tone Vays crypto scam about Ripple. That is one of Tone's best videos of all time. I forgot what expert he had on, but it explains what Ripple really is. You know, there are all these people out there, they like to hear Tone mention one number or this number or make fun of his hair or whatever and see him get his hair cut. They think that's entertaining. That's nothing. Go to his crypto scam thing about Ripple and you will learn so much. I mean, basic stuff that you have to understand to really get a feel of the crypto space, to really, there's all these fake 80%er stuff out there. This is hardcore 20%er type of stuff, information. Watch again. Look that Tone Vays Ripple crypto scam up and pound that like button for World Crypto Network.
Or you could just ignore Ripple altogether and save yourself the time. So now we have the two that, you know, of these four, Ethereum, Ripple, Bcash, and Litecash. I would guess that the vast majority of people are more interested in hearing about Bcash and Litecoin, certainly, than Ripple and even Ethereum. I think Ethereum's case is already made. Bcash, okay, 10% of a Bitcoin. Can it, again, I know you think Roger Ver can pump things eternally. I think that this is the most overvalued altcoin in history relative to Bitcoin. What do you think the outlook for Bcash is at 10% of a Bitcoin?
Oh, well, this is big news right here. Well, first of all, I still can't get over the fact that more people would rather have Ripple. There are certain Bitcoin Bitcoin fans prefer Ripple over Bcash. And I just don't get it, because Ripple is just a company. At least Bcash it's just Bitcoin, but it's a little bit more centralized, and you know what it
yes,
is.
I would own Bcash over Ripple too. I agree with that.
Any day. I think there's just this horrible, and again, people are disgusted with King of the Trolls. Okay, you can only take that emotion so far, people. I'm not a fan of King of the Trolls either. I won't say his name, but yeah, it's not going to make me so emotional where I think that Ripple is more legitimate than Bcash. It's just out of this world.
Well, let's talk about Bcash.
Well, let's say I think Bcash right now, they've got personalities. They've got fake Satoshi wants to fork it off. So if they fork off, if Bcash splits, if they have a civil war, which apparently they're having, it's going to be great for Bcash. All people will. Right now it is the #4 cryptocurrency on coin market cap. Okay, if the rumors really start to build that they're going to have a crypto dividend, that there's going to be a fork, people will start to buy Bcash, and the price will go up. It is all cyclical. And again,
would that be considered a fork though? I mean, a civil war like in Monero, they just had basically. I mean, I don't even know they have 3 Moneros. There's no one that could have looked at that situation and said, "This is great. They're going to split in 3 because one guy wants to."
That's a different thing. That's minor. That's minor compared to this. I mean, this is a huge personality in their space. It's the same thing that happened. It's very similar to what was going on in July of last year. A huge personality in the Bitcoin space said, King of the Trolls, I'm going to make my own Bitcoin. And everyone was scared, but then it split off, and Bcash plus Bitcoin was worth more than just Bitcoin alone. Right now in Bcash plus Craig Cash will be worth more than Bcash alone. It will be. It's because it's a major. There are a lot of people. He's not some minor guy just trying to do a little Bcash fork in China somewhere. Okay. This is a major thing. So I don't know if it's going to happen or not. I don't try to study the Bcash civil wars and everything, but I mean, it's popped up on my radar lately. Okay. And again, people can hate Bcash as much as they want to hate it. But if there's really an even split, if fake Satoshi makes his Craig Cash and Bcash it still continues on its own way, the two will add up in fiat value more than Bcash alone.
Well, put it this way. I'll put it in my way. And of course, at the end of what I say, we'll go back to the most important question is Bcash at 10% of Bitcoin today overvalued or undervalued? We'll answer that after I give my part. Now, yes, I've heard those things. I've said for some time there's going to be a mutiny, not because of Craig Wright per se, but because Bcash came into the world saying we're going to do X. All the things that it said it would do, it hasn't done. It's split several times. It's got this huge amount that's locked up with Bitmain that could be sold at any time. It's like you think the Mt. Gox trustee had a sword over the head of Bitcoin. The Bitmain has a much bigger sword over the head of Bcash. Meanwhile, Roger Ver and Jihan Wu have gone silent about Bcash. And we're about to hit the 1-year anniversary of the fork this week. So you're going to have people who might want to sell because they got to their long-term holdings. That's just another thing out there. I don't know how much that matters. And the last thing I'll say about the split, if it actually was going to happen, is I don't think I would think that is a bullish thing, because Craig Wright in 2018 does not equal the cachet of Roger Ver in 2017. I mean, Roger Ver in 2018 doesn't equal Roger Ver in 2017. Craig Wright, I think, in many ways, is kind of a joke across the entire crypto community. So if he actually was going to try to split it up, I think it would be more like what happened to Bitcoin last summer, where people were worried that Bitcoin will be destroyed. So look, again, I couldn't tell you if Bcash 1 + 2 would be worth more than current Bcash. But the bigger question, Adam, is Bcash as 10% of Bitcoin today, with or without a split of Bcash, undervalued or overvalued? I mean, are we going to be at 20% of Bitcoin, or are we going to be at 5% of Bitcoin in your most likely scenario?
I think it'll always live around 12% or something like that. But it will have its moments where it goes to 20%. So, and again, and there's something that we don't fully grasp. In Asia, it is thought of differently. Again, when I was in South Korea, someone asked me, a legitimate reporter said, is Craig Wright really Satoshi? People think he's Satoshi. Yeah. Is he? Okay. And then people respect Jihan Wu there, or excuse me, the Rocket Man Wu there, and they respect King of the Trolls there. They really, and that's a huge market. They don't have, in the English speaking world, there's you say Craig Wright, fake Satoshi is thought of as a joke. Yeah, in the English speaking world, but again, it's different in different parts of the world, and they are based in Asia. They are basically based in Asia with King of the Trolls and everything over there.
Well, I'll put it this way.
And then we have people, there are people working, and then there are legitimate English-speaking people like Vinny Lingham, like other dudes on Twitter who basically say Bitcoin and Bcash are equal. They will not say that one is superior to the other. There are plenty of people like Vinny who leave the door open to that Bcash could be Bitcoin one day. I don't leave that door open at all, okay? I make it very clear, but we cannot deny that there are people like Vinny Lingham who leave the door open, who get on tremendous, CNBC shows and who get a lot of airtime, who get a lot of publicity and get a lot of legitimacy. So this, even though there's a lot of people that can point to all the illegitimate things about Bcash, there are people out there who have plenty of legitimacy, whether it be in Asia, whether it be in North America, whether it be because the mainstream media pumping them up. They have say in this. They are able to market Bcash and keep the door open, keep the hope alive that it could be Bitcoin and that crypto is really meant for coffee transactions. That door remains open, whether we like it or not. I'm a huge believer that this is not a right. Who the heck wants to use crypto to buy coffee right now?
All right. Well, let's put it this way. And again, I definitely don't want to talk about Vinny Lingham here, who perhaps he does still have some cachet, but again, another person who lost a lot of what he had in the past year. But let's face it. Look, Bcash, when it forked, I remember those futures right up to the fork were trading at about 10.5% of Bitcoin. Here we are a year later, 10.5% of a Bitcoin. And there's still not many choices in crypto land for diversifiers. And those crypto hedge funds come in, they diversify, and they don't have many choices. So I think you're right. I think Bcash has to be bought by someone who's diversifying, whether they like it or not. But I don't believe that it has the ability to pump to 20% Bitcoin anymore, because I just see too much wrong with it. I don't think a civil war split is something that's going to be good for the overall Bcash versus Bitcoin valuation. But let's face it, it's not going away. It just has so many headwinds operationally compared to Bitcoin that has none, that I just can't believe anyone in their right mind would buy it relative to Bitcoin. Last but not least, the one of these four, which is by far the least valued of the four, but probably gets the most discussion because so many people have an interest in it. And I frankly think that the reason so many people have an interest in Litecoin is for the same reason that they bought silver instead of gold. And that's why it was called at one point silver to Bitcoin's gold, because it's cheaper. I mean, it's cheaper for many reasons. It doesn't have the network effect. It's going to have 4 times the amount of supply. It doesn't, I know people want to believe it's used for things, but it's not. But it is a stable network that's been around for a long time, that was created by someone with a reputation. It's not going anywhere. As long as Bitcoin survives, Litecoin will survive. But it's trading at 1% of a Bitcoin right now, which is probably about par for where it's been over the past, on average, for the past, I don't know, years.
Yeah.
So 1% of it, I mean, I sold mine this last summer, right at the time of the Bitcoin SegWit, because I knew that, I believe that Litecoin can never, surpass Bitcoin in terms of, percentage of value. But here we are a year later. So what do you think? Is 1% of a Bitcoin as much as Litecoin will ever trade at, or can it go higher?
It will return to 2%. It will return there because it will be one of the biggest. Once the Bitcoin ETF is approved, then the rumors will start to which altcoin will be next. And Litecoin is going to be one of the names that they shout to the rooftops, just because there is that ingrained memory of it being the silver to Bitcoin's gold. it's just something that's in the community, and it makes little sense now because you could say Bcash is that almost. I mean, if you
I would say B-Rhodium has a better chance. It was created to be that Litecoin is not, but of course it has no track record yet. And Litecoins have been around for 7 or 8 years.
Yeah. I mean, we got to talk about brand recognition at this point. And in terms of brand recognition, Litecoin is a tremendous brand in the crypto world. I mean, I think that the biggest brand is obviously Bitcoin by far, then Ethereum, then Litecoin. So based on that, there are going to be people. Well, I want a diversified ETF. I don't want to have a Bitcoin one. I want to have a Litecoin one also. And that will pump it eventually again. It will return because all Litecoin really is Bitcoin. It is a test net for Bitcoin. Maybe there'll be some new innovation, just like how SegWit was tested on Litecoin first. Maybe, in the future, maybe, or in the near future, maybe there'll be some new anonymous aspect of Bitcoin that'll be tested on Litecoin first, and that'll pump it up. It will return to 2%. And I think something that will help it a lot is once the Bitcoin ETF is approved, people will start talking about a Litecoin ETF. They're not going to be talking about a Ripple ETF because that's a central. I'm pretty sure that institutional investors are not going to want to mess with something that can just be turned off.
Well, you can't have an ETF of a corporation's product. I mean, Ripple is the Ripple Corporation ETF.
Yeah, so that excludes that supposedly top tier one. And again, let's go into what's a top tier also. The Hoffman line, the Hoffman $1 billion, $100 billion
market cap, yes,
market capitalization line that I've been talking about. That Bitcoin, that you have pointed out that Bitcoin has remained above this line. But what I started to think about is to become a true top tier altcoin. In the end of the day, you're going to have to cross over that line for good. And Ethereum has crossed over it a couple times, but it's only been there. And even Ripple bounced over it once. I think that in the long run, that Litecoin and Ethereum and Bcash will live over that line eventually.
Wow, so Litecoin is going to go over $100 billion?
One day it will. I think it will based on that.
Well, people's sheer desire for diversification, for ETFs, for the silver to gold, for brand recognition. I think. Adam, do you realize that if I just took that snippet of what you just said now, let alone if I just took my out of context where I said Litecoin's going to be 100 billion, and I put that snippet on Twitter, you'd probably get like 500 followers in the next day. Because there's a huge Litecoin community out there that is desperate for it to regain its glory. And look, it was $350 only 6 months ago. It's not like it can't return there. If Bitcoin can return to 20,000, of course Litecoin can return to $350, which is a lot more than 1% of a Bitcoin. And yes, the ETF is a possibility. At some point, I probably think it's the easiest ETF to actually operationally do aside from Bitcoin. So that could happen. And if what happens to Bitcoin the way we believe it, yeah, I guess in terms of the community as a percentage of Bitcoin, I guess $100 billion market cap could one day be feasible. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, but I think we both agree that at 1% Litecoin of a Bitcoin, Litecoin doesn't have much downside, whereas Bcash at 10%. There's a lot of variables that can make it in the short term have dramatic swings versus Bitcoin.
I just want to say with that Litecoin prediction, that's more of me because I am a Bitcoin guy and I don't want my words being taken out of context. I'm trying to say is going to survive for the long run, and it probably it will get over 100 billion in market cap. But at that point, Bitcoin might be worth one Bitcoin might be worth $100,000 at that point or something.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing about what you said that's inconsistent with anything that you've said before or makes sense. Look, I mean, we both. I've said my first article was trillions will enter the look. I mean, just look, put it this way: if gold is $7 trillion, okay. There's no doubt in my mind that Bitcoin is going to be worth more than gold at some point. And again, the gold numbers are hard to measure because you don't know exactly how much, but it's pretty much standard belief that 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 there's $7 trillion worth of gold out there, 100,000 million billion, 1,000, that's 7 trillion. So then you divide that by $80 million, 80 million Litecoins, and that would be $87,000 per Litecoin times, and 1% of that. Whoops, 87,000 times 1%, 10%, 87, $870 a Litecoin. I mean, to be if Bitcoin was the same value as gold and Litecoin was 1% of that value, Litecoin would be like $900 each. So then you're talking $70 billion or so. I mean, it's not like it's this incredibly huge prediction that if Bitcoin does what we think it will do, that Litecoin could be worth that much. It's just that the question is when. And again,
time. Yeah. I'm not saying tomorrow with Litecoin. I mean, obviously, Ethereum will cross over that $100 billion line for good much sooner than Litecoin will. But I'm just trying to say that Litecoin is here for the long run. It's here.
Okay. Good. Okay. So I think that this was a really good conversation here. This part alone is very valuable because people want to just get their juices flowing, thinking now that we're moving into.
They want to hear their coin mentioned. But again, don't mess with Bitcoin's the one. That's the true win. I mean, there's so many ifs and whens with Litecoin and this and Bitcoin.
And again, Adam,
everyone's working on Bitcoin right now.
And we'll get to in a second. I'm sorry I'm interrupting you. The crypto dividends, okay? You're not going to get them with Litecoin, but we're going to move on to that article in a second. Next, now that the Bitcoin freight train is again moving forward with increasingly powerful momentum at a time when so many other markets are facing stiff headwinds, let's ponder what, if anything, is left to slow it down. And you know what, actually, I'm reading here, but as I see here, I was talking about the ETF approval. These are a lot of things we talked about. I don't think either of us believe there's any, we've gone over this. I don't think there's anything either of us believe is a major threat. Although, sure, in the short term, anything can happen. So let me move on. Okay, here we go. Well, next I want to bring up that giant pink elephant that the majority of crypto investors seem to ignore, i.e. the one responsible for Bitcoin's creation that guarantees, and I wrote that in caps, its success for years to come, which is the gargantuan, parabolically rising amount of fiat currency creation, as exemplified by this week's Chinese fiscal stimulus announcement, today's ECB saying we're going to have negative interest rates at least through next year, and many other currencies collapsing serially, such as today the Turkish lira is first in line. So with all of this central bank money printing, and that that if interest rates continue to rise, they're going to do it some more. I mean, and then you have stuff like you see what happened with Facebook today, and you realize that the governments may have to do some stock market propping sometime soon. I mean, do you think, Adam, that the crypto community pays enough attention to the major issue that created Bitcoin, which is fiat currency creation, or are they too focused on just the technology development as an asset class and as an investment?
I think people have totally forgotten the inflationary aspect of fiat currencies. That they're not, if they keep their money in fiat, that it's going to be their wealth is inflated away. That with with Bitcoin, you're protecting your wealth, you're preserving your wealth. I think a lot of people have lost that aspect of it, and I've just gotten stuck into the trading games between fiat and crypto and trying to get more fiat. A lot of people, they just don't care. They just don't care about their bread, their dollars not being able to get them as much food in 5 years as they could get today, and having to pay so much more dollars for a car 5 years from now than from today. I think there's a lot of people who just miss out on that aspect. And you bring up the Facebook thing, and it just shows you people who try to compare the stock market. Facebook was the darling of the stock market, something that everybody had to own. And then it just goes down by 20%. And it's like everybody sees that the emperor has no clothes on or yelling it now about Facebook, that they were fake, accounts, and they weren't making as much money as they said they were. These things happen. The stock market, the darlings of the stock market aren't that great. People are like, well, you should diversify into the stock market. Well, why? I mean, we're in a new era here now. And I don't know, I'd rather be in the land of Bitcoin than in the centralized world of Facebook, where the leader can be shamed into making changes and has to virtue signal, and we have to worry about all sorts of, Bitcoin has no emotions. Bitcoin has no feelings. Bitcoin doesn't have to virtue signal. Companies like that have to fit into mainstream society, and if they're not playing by the rules, they can have tremendous crashes like what's happened with Facebook. And it's based on fundamentals with Facebook too. So again, there's still people who don't see it that way, who still think, oh, the traditional way, we gotta keep a toe in there too with stocks and fiat. But again, this is something, a totally new asset class, deflationary, unconfiscatable, and people forget those aspects. People really do forget those aspects.
It really is remarkable that people don't understand that by definition. I mean, I would say the average person has not a clue about why Bitcoin came to be and about why its scarcity is so valuable. That's why people are so into so many altcoins. They just see price appreciation. They don't even consider what the supply is and the fundamentals behind it. As for for fiat currency in general, it's by definition a Ponzi scheme. It has to keep growing. You have to keep exponentially increasing the amount of currency to pay off all the debt that's created in keeping the value of assets down because of all the inflation that pushes interest rates up and puts pressure on stock and real estate prices. And now bonds are at their highest ever valuation of all time because the central banks have to keep printing the money to hold the values up to keep interest rates down. And as a result, the stock valuations are now at their highest ever value. So you not only have to deal with the Facebook issues, you also have to deal with the highest ever valuations, which are created because the governments have to keep printing money and monetizing. Some of them are monetizing overtly, some of them are doing it covertly, but they're all doing it. And so, to diversify into stocks and bonds, which to me are anachronisms, they no longer work. They only work to build the wealth of the people who get the free money. To be able to own the majority of them is insane. And I didn't even mention the yuan here. We're talking about these trade wars where we're really attacking China, and China is in return devaluing the yuan. This is the currency of the largest nation in the world, and yet gold price doesn't go up. And what do you know? Just as these trade wars start, Bitcoin starts going up. Is that a coincidence? I don't know. But the fact is there's major bullish tailwinds for Bitcoin in every aspect in the real world that no one seems to pay attention to. Now, last but far from least, I want to talk about my article from, I think, yesterday morning, the Meister crypto dividend and the Hoffman $100 billion line, which was catalyzed by Adam speaking of that $100 billion market cap line in the sand in his show Monday night. The gist of the article being that, firstly, I'm increasingly confident, as in 100% confident, that my legacy in the crypto space will be my call in the fall that 100 billion would be the level institutions entered Bitcoin, and conversely this spring that 100 billion would be the level they would provide impenetrable support. Secondly, that Adam's legacy is already cemented by his call last July at the height of the panic-inducing Bitcoin scaling debate that hard forks like Bcash would not only be harmless to Bitcoin, but over time a source of significant hodler profit. Adam, what's your current view on how, well, you just gave your view on the relevancy of the $100 billion market cap, which currently is about 58.50 for Bitcoin. Secondly, so let's just go to that part. What is your outlook for the near future of Bitcoin and potentially altcoin crypto dividends?
Well, I don't think we're in a crypto dividend bull market right now at all. No, I think that there haven't been any new ones lately. We got B-Rhodium coming up, so I think that'll be an interesting test of how efficient the airdrop method is. And but again, they should get all their eggs in line, and I know they're being very patient about it to make sure they're on exchanges and just to make sure that the entire Bitcoin market is flowing upward. But as I think it becomes more apparent that that Bitcoin is on the upswing again in terms of fiat, we will see a return to these crypto dividends. Again, the Bcash situation could spark off a whole new round of crypto dividends in Bitcoin and Bcash and maybe other ones also. And we do kind of overlook that, during the whole crypto dividend pumpage, I guess at the end of last year, there were ones coming up on Ethereum also, and those ones are actually easier to claim. The Ethereum method is a little better than the Bitcoin method, or it can be simpler. So, I mean, I foresee these things coming out again. It's a unique way to form an altcoin. Will it ever be as wild and wacky as it was at first? Where, like, I mean, it seemed like in November and December, everybody and their mother in Asia was creating their own Bitcoin. I don't know if it'll ever get to that extreme again, but I think there will be some pumps again. And it's going to become easier to get to claim these Bitcoin crypto dividends too. There will be, so I think we're going to have there are all these ones that have come out already, like B Diamond and Super Bitcoin, that people have not claimed because it's difficult. There's scams out there. But I think one day it's going to become easier, and then a lot of people are going to go back and claim them. So we might see like a little bit of a flashback to some of these old ones in the future. Because again, that's why you got to guard your private keys, people. Keep those private keys, because you never know in the future, you might be able to claim something on it easily that you weren't able to claim in the present. So if you've switched private keys, if you move things around, keep a record of the old ones, because one day you might go over them and say, well, wait a second, I'm entitled to the 20 B Diamond, and I didn't want to do it back then, and now I can easily get them, and they're worth a lot more, let's say. So I think there'll be new, unique things to crypto dividends in the future that we cannot even predict right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some more innovation with them on top of Ethereum, that there'll be some big Ethereum crypto dividends maybe. Not that I'm saying to buy Ethereum, but I'm just, I'm thinking off the top of my head here. And I would say there probably will be another Litecoin crypto dividend too. But it will be interesting to see with the Bitcoin crypto dividends if there are more airdrops. That is something that I'm curious about.
Right. Well, first, I would definitely say that the term crypto dividend itself may have to morph into something else, because, like you said, the days of the Bitcoin fork, those are over, because people realize that, well, one, like you said, you can, unless someone's supporting it, you can't really claim it safely. I love when people say, oh, I got mine. Yeah, you did very risky things to get it. And by the way, these things aren't worth anything. So you took a lot of risk to get very little. And again, when you look at all of the Bitcoin forks, and I mean all of them from Bcash down, to me, they have a worth from speculation, but they don't do anything. I don't think anyone will ever believe that any of them are going to be worth much of anything other than Bcash, because it's got this weird, all these personalities in it trying to pump it up. But otherwise, B Gold and all the way down Super Bitcoin, worthless. I think those days are done. And like you said, also because you can't really claim most of them, it's just a done thing. And that's why any quote crypto dividend going in the future is going to have to be one that's safe. And that's why I believe the airdrop is a way of the future. In fact, the airdrops of the future will probably be even easier than the ones that we just did with B-Rhodium, with Bitcore. They'll probably be even easier to claim. And believe me, for all that people went through getting them, they really weren't that difficult, especially because the second time around, you knew what the issues were the first time, and it gets much easier. But I do believe when going forward, like you said, you use the term altcoin formation. That's what I think crypto dividends of the future is. Not necessarily because someone's saying, well, I'm going to use the Bitcoin name to create something and hope speculators buy it. It's simply going to be someone saying, I want to create an altcoin that does something, and the easiest way to do it, the most cost-effective way, and the easiest way to get publicity is to just give it to Bitcoin holders. Rather than look, the ICOs in a lot of countries are illegal. They're like securities offerings. This way you can do a pre-mine, give yourself some, but not have to do a securities offering. So I believe there's going to be many more modeled like B-Rhodium, where the Bitcoin holders will benefit because they're the biggest community. And that's what's the most exciting thing, because we don't even know what they are yet. And many of them are going to be like, the Bitcoin forks were all like, well, we're Bitcoin, but we're going to change this a little bit. No, these new ones may be like, we are nothing to do with Bitcoin. We're Ethereum too, except we're just going to be an airdrop to Bitcoin holders. And that's what the real excitement is. Hold your private keys, and you're going to be able to benefit from these quote crypto dividends. I'll give you the last word on this topic.
Yeah, it's a unique distribution method. It really is. And it benefits holders. It's just another again, if they all are relatively, if they're all under 1%, but they're easy to get and totally safe, then you're getting interest on holding your Bitcoin. And that's a glorious thing. You're getting a one-time dividend payment from this, you know, altcoin based in China. It's great. Hey, everyone. Thomas is in the chat. Pound that like button. I just want to say hi to him.
Awesome. Hey, Thomas. Well, look, all right, Thomas, I think you'll have to go back to the beginning because we're just finishing now. We've been going on for more than an hour. This was amazing, especially that whole part talking about all the different top-tier altcoins. So we're going to conclude today with Adam, one of the sector's most inspirational and passionate Bitcoin supporters. Please check out the Bitcoin Meister YouTube channel every single day for his daily and weekly programming, and the World Crypto Network's iTunes feed, as well as his Twitter handle @TechVault. As for me, please check out my daily blog at cryptogoldcentral.com. Follow me at Andy_Hoffman_CG, or contact me about crypto consultations at ahoffman@cryptogoldcentral.com. Thanks and have a great crypto day.